Welcome to my channel. We've missed you and you've probably missed us. We enjoy posting content, but sometimes life gets in the way. And in this case it's good stuff, but we're very busy. We've been in the middle of a big push to move all the equipment from my old garage to the new garage and get the old house cleared out and ready for sale, so it left zero time to post any content. Also, I've learned by viewership that most of you guys just want to see trains. Nobody cares about me building workbenches or other projects around the house, so I'm going to try to focus the content mostly on the things you guys enjoy. For us, that means driving about 7.5 or 8 hours to Train Mountain to shoot video. So we decided to go down to the narrow gauge meet and do that. And in order to save fuel, we chose to bring just the steam locomotive and the rider car and fuel car, which fits in the back of the pickup truck under the canopy. However, with all the busyness, I didn't have a chance to do a test fire up on the steam locomotive and troubleshoot it before we came down here. And so that's a gamble. You can see in the photo that we use a transfer table to unload. There's a hydraulic motor that lifts that table. It can also rotate like a roundhouse, and it slides back and forth to index the track that you want to put your equipment on. This is really handy and a lot safer for unloading trucks and trailers here at Train Mountain. The weather started to turn rainy, so we had to choose our times carefully because this locomotive doesn't have the tractive effort to go up steep grades in the rain. During one of the sun breaks, I put a fire in the locomotive and went through the checklist to make sure everything was ready for service. And I found that the engineer's side check valve on the injector was leaking. The function of this check valve is to prevent the steam and water from blowing from the pressurized boiler back toward the injector and out the overflow pipe. The way the valve works is that the steam pressure holds it shut, and when you use the injector, it pushes against it and gives the water velocity and momentum, and it overcomes the steam pressure in the boiler to push that valve open and put water back in the boiler. I discovered that the valve had a dent in it. This could be from steam cut, or maybe it shifted during reassembly after cleaning last time. It's hard to know, but either way, I have to lap this valve back so the mating surfaces are perfectly flat and smooth so it'll seal properly. After a brief search and consulting Jeff Mills and Jordan Dobson in the shop, they came up with some solutions. Jeff presented me with a small drill chuck, and Jordan suggested a pencil in case the drill chuck didn't quite fit in the bore of the valve. And it turns out the pencil was the winner in this case, and I used it to lap the valve back in. So I chucked the pencil in the lathe and used a center drill to get a precise center hole, and then used the drill bit to enlarge the size of the eraser hole just enough to tightly hold the shaft on the check valve. This is Jeff Mills staring at the pencil chucked in the lathe, which is normally used for metalworking. The check right here, if you look closely, there's a little cut on it, a little steam cut. So I've got lapping compound here. I've made a pencil as my lapping tool with a small hole drilled in it to get on the stem of this little valve. And you put it in with some compound and you work it about a quarter circle, then advance it a quarter circle and work it back and forth there until you complete a lap. So here it is loaded up with compound, and you want to try to keep the valve in the orientation it's going to be when you use it. So I'm keeping this pencil straight up. You can hear it. It sounds a little gritty. That means it's doing its job. And I advance it about a quarter turn, work it again, advance it, work it again. Just keep doing that. We're mating these surfaces together perfectly. You can see the compound on there. And by lapping them together against one another, we know it's going to be a perfect fit. This is a tried and true method of getting these to seal against steam pressure. It's a great system. If they're really bad, you can put it on a machine and take a light cut on it, but then you've got to start all over with the lapping. Okay, we're all finished. I'll rotate this around. You can see a little shadow of a cut on top, on the edge, but the mating surface itself is nice and smooth. There's another little shadow of a cut. But everything's nice and smooth. And with your fingernail, you can't feel any ridges or grooves. So I think we're in good shape. And the valve seat looks really good. I'm going to clean that off and do one final inspection. There's the valve seat with a nicely polished surface. There's a little bit of compound in the corners I still have to clean out. But I think we're there. We'll reassemble and test. All right, firing up here. We have the check valve all assembled. Just a little bit of water, which I think is coming from the tender valve, because when I had the boiler empty, it was dripping at the same rate. It's way better than it was before. Well, we failed. Once I got it under steam, it looked like everything was well until I started the injector, and it started to lift that valve and it never seated. So I drained the boiler and I have compressed air on it to blow all the water out. And this is how bad the leak is. Right there. So we'll check it out and see if we can find what's wrong with it. If we continue to have problems, we'll replace it. It's just held on by a couple of unions here. Well, as Peter Gabriel once said in Genesis, gambling only pays when you're winning. And we're not getting paid this time. In fact, I'm a little concerned that we'll get demonetized, but there's not much I can do about it. We'll just have to come back later and post more content. Hope people stick with us. But at this point, the weather turned rainy, and there was no other opportunity to run the locomotive on this trip. In the process of editing this video, it occurred to me that that valve seated perfectly when I was firing the locomotive up, and it only failed when I tried to run the injector and push against the valve to open it. So that tells me that there may be something with the valve stem and how it rides up and down in the cap that's causing it to jam. And this may be a simple fix, something like polishing that valve stem to make sure it goes up and down correctly. I also learned that the modifications to the firebox made a big difference in the color of the flame. I no longer have the yellow edges that I had before. And those yellow edges indicate less than complete combustion of the propane. So now I think that the open air concept to the bottom of the firebox allows more oxygen to reach the flame and get better combustion. It seemed also that I needed less blower in order to make this flame heat the boiler up during the fire up. So I think we've got some improvements here. We just need to get everything working right so we can test them out on the main line. So thanks again for watching. We hope to produce more content soon, and thanks for your patience while we move. Once we get in a new location, we'll build some more trains, hopefully entertain you guys, and maybe you can learn something too.